makes a good investment? Welcome to my channel. Today, I want to share something that might sound simple, but it has the power to change everything about your life, one small habit. We often think that transformation requires big, dramatic changes, waking up one morning and completely overhauling our lifestyle, routines, and mindset. But in reality, real success rarely works like that. It comes from small investment, everything, repeatable actions that build on themselves until one day you wake up and realize your life looks completely different. Think about it like this. If you invest just $1 a day, it doesn't seem like much. It feels almost meaningless, but compounded over years with consistency, that small investment turns into something significant. Habits work the same way. And the tiny decision you make daily, whether it's reading 10 pages, exercising for 10 minutes, saving a small amount of money, or even simply writing down tomorrow's plan, sets off a chain reaction. Investment. That chain reaction builds momentum, and momentum creates results. The problem most people face is that they underestimate the power of being consistent with one small habit. They think, what difference does it make if I skip today? But skipping today becomes skipping tomorrow, and soon the habit dies before it had the chance to transform your life. That's why it's not about intensity. It's about persistence. It's about persistence. Doing a little every single day compounds into something extraordinary. Here's the truth. One disciplined habit doesn't just affect one area of your life. It creates a ripple effect. For example, if you commit to exercising just 10 minutes a day, you start to eat better. You begin to sleep better. You feel more confident, which impacts your relationships, your career, and your overall mindset. That one habit spills into every corner of your life. And here's the most powerful part. It doesn't matter how small that habit is. What matters is that you start and you stay consistent. Over time, the smallest daily action builds long-term freedom. The freedom of health, the freedom of financial security, the freedom of mental clarity. So if you're waiting for the right time to start, stop waiting. Choose one small habit today, something so easy that you can't fail, and commit to it. Do it daily and let it grow. That one decision could be the turning point that changes your entire life. Most people underestimate how much power there really is in the smallest actions. They think change has to come in the form of some giant breakthrough, quitting their job, moving to another city, starting a completely new lifestyle overnight. But that's not how real transformation happens. It starts with one small, consistent habit that compounds over time. The idea of compounding is something most people hear about in the context of money, but it applies to life just as much. You invest a little bit of effort every day. Investment. And even though it doesn't look like much in the beginning, give it enough time and it becomes something that completely shifts your reality. Let's take a simple example, reading for 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes doesn't sound like it could do much, but in a year, that adds up to more than 60 hours of focused reading. That's multiple books, lessons, good investment, and insights that you wouldn't have had if you didn't commit to those 10 minutes. And here's the catch. Those insights then influence the decisions you make, which influence the opportunities you attract, which ultimately influence the life you build, all from what looks like such a small, almost insignificant daily action. The truth is, investment. Small habits are deceptively powerful because they don't demand a lot of effort up front. That's why they're easy to start and stick with. Investment. The problem is that people overlook them because they don't produce instant results. If you save $5 today, your life doesn't change. If you walk for 15 minutes, your body doesn't transform. If you write one page, you don't suddenly become an author. But stack those small actions over weeks, months, and years, and suddenly you've created a completely new version of yourself. The results sneak up on you because growth doesn't happen in a straight line. It happens quietly beneath the surface until one day it bursts through in a way you can't ignore. That's why the key is not to underestimate what one small habit can do. It's about trusting the process, even when you can't see the immediate payoff. Because what feels like almost nothing today can become the very thing that changes your entire future. When it comes to building a life you're proud of, consistency will always beat intensity. Most people fall into the trap of going all in for a short burst of time, only to burn out and quit. They'll start a new diet, push hard for 2 weeks, and then give up the moment it gets tough. Investment. They'll commit to saving aggressively for a month and then slip back into old habits. The reason this cycle repeats is because they rely on bursts of motivation instead of building steady, reliable consistency. motivation comes and goes. Consistency builds momentum, and momentum is what carries you forward even on the days you don't feel like showing up. Think of it like going to the gym. If you train for 3 hours once a week, you won't see much change. But if you commit to just 30 minutes every single day, the results will be undeniable. It's not about how hard you go once, investment. It's about how often you show up. The body responds to repetition, and so does the mind. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you reinforce your identity as someone who does what they say they're going to do. That builds confidence, discipline, and long-term success. The same is true with money. Someone who invests a small amount consistently over years will always beat the person who invests a large sum once and never does it again. The market rewards consistency, just like life rewards consistency. It's the act of showing up again and again that compounds into extraordinary results. And the best part is consistency doesn't require you to be perfect. It only requires you to keep going. Missing a day won't ruin you, but quitting the habit altogether will. What most people don't realize is that consistency lowers the barrier to progress. Once something becomes part of your daily rhythm, it takes less energy to continue than it does to stop and restart. That's when you know a habit has taken root. It no longer feels like effort. It just feels like who you are. And once you get to that point, the results almost take care of themselves. That's why the goal isn't to do everything at once. It's to do something every single day. Consistency might not feel exciting, but it's the quiet force that turns small habits into life-changing outcomes. One of the most surprising things about habits is how one single discipline can create a ripple effect across your entire life. Investment, you might start with something small, like waking up at the same time every morning. And before you realize it, that one act of discipline begins shaping how you approach everything else. Suddenly, everything makes a good investment. You're not just waking up early. You're eating better because you feel more in control of your schedule. You're more productive because you've gained extra time in your day. Investment. And you carry a sense of momentum that influences your decisions in areas you never even intended to change. That's the ripple effect in action. The reason this happens is because habits don't live in isolation. And everything makes a good investment. They connect with one another. When you put discipline in one corner of your life, it bleeds into the rest. For example, if you make the choice to start exercising daily, you don't just get stronger physically. You start to crave better foods because your body tells you it wants fuel, not junk. You sleep deeper because your energy is being used productively. You feel more confident, and that confidence spills into how you show up at work, how you handle stress, and how you interact with people. One habit can completely rewire the way you think and behave across every area of life. Good investment. It's easy to overlook this connection because it doesn't happen instantly. The first time you show up to the gym or the first time you save a small amount of money, nothing dramatic changes. But stick with it, and soon you start noticing those ripple effects stacking on top of each other. What began as a single act of discipline transforms into a chain reaction of better choices. You're no longer fighting uphill with willpower. You're being carried forward by the momentum of one good decision leading to another. Investment. That's why the focus should never be on trying to fix every area of your life at once. It's too overwhelming and almost always leads to burnout. Instead, choose one small habit, something you know you can commit to, and let it become the foundation. Once that foundation is strong, it naturally pulls other parts of your life into alignment. And when that happens, the results go far beyond what you originally expected. Investment. The smallest daily action has the power to create long-term freedom. And that's something most people don't fully grasp. They think freedom comes from one big move, like landing a dream job, and is building a business overnight, or suddenly coming into a large amount of money. But in reality, true freedom is built quietly through the little things you do day after day. Every choice, no matter how small, makes a good investment is like laying down a single brick. One brick doesn't look like much, but keep stacking them, and eventually you've built a foundation strong enough to support the kind of life you want. Take financial freedom as an example. Saving just a small percentage of your income might not feel like it's moving the needle today. You won't retire on what you save in a week or even a month. Good investment. But keep doing it consistently, and in a few years, you'll look back and realize you've built a cushion that gives you options most people don't have. That freedom didn't come from a single massive action. It came from the smallest repeated ones. The same applies to your health, your relationships, and your mindset. Small daily investments in each of these areas add up to the freedom of living on your own terms. What makes this so powerful is that small actions are sustainable. You don't need endless motivation or a sudden burst of energy to stick with them. You just need to show up. A short walk every day eventually leads to stronger health. Writing a single page a day eventually leads to finishing a book. Setting aside a little money every month eventually leads to financial security. The effort required is small, but the long-term payoff is enormous. The key is to stop underestimating the value of small steps and start recognizing them for what they are, the seeds of freedom. Because once you commit to those daily actions, you're no longer stuck in a cycle of waiting for the perfect moment or the big break. You're building your future in real time, one choice at a time. And when you finally arrive at that place of freedom investment, you'll realize it was those small, ordinary actions that made all the difference.